Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And I know a lot of you guys followed my coverage out in DC. Last night I was able to not only show you the footage that I hadn't showed you before, but go over some of the other footage that we really didn't get a good chance of showing you. But as you know, I was able to do some interviews while I was there. Unfortunately, live streaming wasn't a possibility for me. I had 3 different lines. All of them were jammed up. But I was able to do an interview with the man behind me, Pete Harding. And Pete is somebody I came across over the summer, not through what I feel is a right or left issue, but of the issues of lockdowns and the state mandating vaccinations and really pushing into this authoritarianism like we've never seen before, and in my home state of New York. And then, of course, there were several viral videos where he was at. We've actually played him on local news at these protests many times. So running into him was an absolute blessing. Now, just like those issues, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think the issue of illegal voting, voting machines in general, something I've covered for a decade and a half, before Dominion was Dominion, when it was Diebold, all these things are not only issues we've had for a long time, but are certainly coming to a head now when you have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people convening on DC to show their displeasure with the outcome. And so to join me in his entire account of this past week in DC is Pete Harding. And Pete, we saw each other before Trump's speech, probably about an hour and a half before Trump's speech, as people gathered there. You were gracious enough to give me an interview. First of all, tell people how you got involved in this, and then just kind of take us through your experience there.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jason. I really appreciate it. It was an honor and a pleasure meeting you down there in DC. Sorry about the camera.
You're fine. You're fine.
I'm sitting in my car right now. It's been on the phone all day long. I had the Washington Post interview and some local news media outlets and some other media outlets are reaching out to me now. Apparently I've become the face of this protest and I'm the domestic terrorist at this point. I had no idea that was the case. I don't follow any of that stuff. I don't read the media. I don't listen to it. I don't watch it. And, I don't get into Facebook and all that stuff as far as all the negative comments. There's so much positive work to be doing that I don't have the time for that,
Mm-hmm.
And running into you the other day was just great. It was really, really great. And you remembering me, it was really a touching moment. And then your accolades for me and reverence for me was, very much appreciated because of what you're doing. You've been doing some great things as well.
Well, first off, I've been saying even before the election happened that no matter what happens and who's in there on January 20th, these lockdowns are going to continue. And it's only us standing up against these mechanisms and showing how they are outright unconstitutional, without merit, and that we cannot stand for them, that we're even going to get some semblance of what normal should be. That's one of the reasons I've gone to these things. You go around these people and 99.9% aren't wearing a mask. They are more than friendly. For instance, you talk about people that entered the initial rally. You had piles of hundreds of backpacks that were completely unattended. Now, let me try to explain something to people that don't go to these type of events or haven't been involved in this since the war on terror. Believe me, I have. So back in the day when I was marching with people like Code Pink against the war, if there were stacks of backpacks, you literally had police officers that were checking them first, putting them down, surrounding them. One of the things that the media did not cover, and I think that this is purposely, is prior to the Capitol, the very, very little police presence everywhere at this rally. I would say it was one of the smallest police presences I've ever seen, and the hype surrounding the National Guard being there, Pete, I didn't see one guardsman the entire time I was there. I'm not sure about yourself.
You know what? That's a great point, and I haven't even discussed that. So it's great observation. Every single MAGA Million march that there was, it was there wasn't much police there at all, or that many police officers. There definitely wasn't a National Guard or a military that was there either. And just, that's very telling and very indicative of what we are and what we represent. Apologize for this camera.
No, you don't even worry about it, man. Listen, you're talking about some really great things, because once again, I don't think that comes across enough. They're always talking about violence. Now they're talking about insurgencies. They're talking about domestic terrorists. And, I've been one to even push back on those that want to call people like Antifa domestic terrorists when they rip down a statue. Listen, you want to charge that person with destruction of property and every other law that's on the books. I totally get that. We don't need to be naming American citizens domestic terrorists, because obviously what's on the plate now, as we can already see politicians calling for it, all those people that were on the Capitol are now domestic terrorists, are now insurgents, are now guilty of sedition without any type of trial. When in reality, if that number of people wanted to physically overtake the Capitol itself, they could have done so. And while I was there, I came much later than the initial moments that the media was there. I was there till about 4:30. But that top level is where the police were, other than that barrier, and there was no physical action whatsoever going on that top level, except for the people that were either waving flags or screaming at people or saying freedom. And there wasn't a physical clash there. It's kind of like the media wants to have it both ways. They won't show you that obviously these people didn't come there to fight. They wanted their voices heard, but they do want to show you, again and again and again, these police clashes. They don't want to show you the police letting the protesters inside the building in masses after the initial surge. So what's your take on that? I mean, give us your account. Let's start with the Capitol, and not the Capitol, the Trump speech, where you were there, and then going to the Capitol.
Okay, great. Yeah. The Trump speech, we came down, a couple of us the other day, and we came down, got into town sometime around, I would say 2:00. We decided this time to have our hotel be outside of the perimeter, the inside perimeter there, because last time we went, it was just chaos. There was Antifa, and there was Black Lives Matter attacking people. Law enforcement was staged up by thousands and thousands. I think everybody was on duty. And I think that honestly, DC police did a very, very good job when we were there that first time. What ended up happening was they were very organized. And the thing that struck me was that, okay, Oregon was overtaken. Seattle was overtaken. All these other cities, Minnesota, all these other cities across the country were overtaken. But DC was able to lock it down and hold it down. So that is complete dereliction of duty by all law enforcement in those different towns, in those different cities. And why are those stories not being told? Well, because the media doesn't want to. It doesn't fit their narrative. It doesn't fit their end game. It doesn't fit their objectives, right? And, DC was very impressive. DC police were very respectful. And for the first time, probably and ever, they heard Back the Blue when we were down there. Our groups that were down there, we were staying down there for the first mega march saying Back the Blue, Back the Blue. And we do that here in Buffalo too. We've been marching since April and May. We've got, different groups that go out, and we're there, as patriots, supporting Trump, supporting, everything that he does. The election, going against the lockdowns were the reasons why we ended up starting the different groups. Here in New York, as you know, Erie County, the lockdowns are insufferable. And in Erie County, it's the worst. Mark Poloncarz is a tyrant. He's a dictator. He's the true terrorist. Under his watch, you've had hundreds of seniors, if not thousands of seniors, die here. Governor Cuomo kills them, and he exonerates himself by writing a book and just saying, I never wrote that. It's instant. But here, and as a contrast, here we are now peaceful, like you said, no police presence. Why is that? That we don't have anybody, and not even a stitch of garbage. Like you said, bags being left unattended, people just trusting one another.
Well, let me stop with the bags really quick, because again, at the height of the fear of the war on terror, it was if you see something, say something. And what would they always go? If a bag is unattended. Now, we're talking about literally not one, they want to call us domestic terrorists, right? They want to call all these people domestic terrorists, yet they're not checking the bags of domestic terrorists that are leaving them unattended everywhere. I mean, just think about the Orwellian logic on top of the Orwellian logic that we're already living under. And again, I haven't condoned any violence. I think that's not the answer. However, I think that civil disobedience is the answer. And I think with a better plan, had people gone there and said, you know what, we're going to stay, we're going to camp out, we're going to make them use force against us until the Supreme Court actually sees the evidence. Okay, you're saying Texas doesn't have standing. You're saying this state doesn't have standing. How about we're from every state in the union and we say we have standing? So at least you have to look at the evidence and then give a ruling on that. And we'll leave after you look at the evidence and tell us why it's not valid. Again, I'm not brilliant. I understand that these things are just difficult to put together in the first place. But now we have this moment where, we have somebody dead, shot. We have 5 deaths now. We have 1 police officer there. And that's what the media focal point is going to be. And it's not going to be on the grandmas that were surrounding me. It's not going to be on the peaceful protesters, unfortunately. So one of the reasons I wanted to get you on here is you were inside. And I want your firsthand perspective on what you saw and what the media isn't showing.
Certainly. And again, great. The media is going to do whatever they have to do to protect themselves, to insulate their narrative, to protect their income, the profits, the ads, the advertisers. That's what they do. That's all they do, all day, every day. They don't care about truth. And shame on them. And here in Buffalo, we are starting an organization called Tell the Truth. It's just another one of the groups that we're starting. And one of the individuals that I work with, he is awesome. And he came up with the idea, and we've been wanting to do this for a long, long time. Basically, what ends up happening is you hold them accountable by watching every single story that they have. You have a team of people that watch every story. That in and of itself is going to start holding them accountable, right? And then also, we're going to rank them. So that in and of itself is going to hold people accountable. And every town should be doing this. We need local online digital media in every single town. Local newspapers are gone, right? And that is the reason why it has been allowed to go unchecked the way that it has been, right? We don't have that presence that's keeping people in check. These politicians, these government agents, they seriously feel like they own the town. They own the people, law enforcement officers, bad law enforcement officers, not good law enforcement officers. And again, not the bad or not the good government agencies. There are some people that do exercise restraint and act responsibly. Here in Erie County in New York, as you know, not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at how the Constitution was set up, and I always call it, a perfectly imperfect document. Because obviously from its time period, it knew that it would have to change. You can't have 3/5 a person. And in a lot of ways, we overcame that. And, that was the true civil rights movement, where we were all equal. And at the same time, they eroded the system of checks and balances over that time period. So instead of a judicial, an executive, and a legislative that was keeping up on one another, post-World War II, you have this national security state that's now become completely out of control. And, for those that think that they're going to rein Google in or YouTube, which is the same thing, which is just part of Alphabet, which is really just a part of the NSA, as Eric Schmidt's on the National Security Committee, and they're in bed with NASA in quantum computing and quantum intelligence, and all these things openly, it's not going to happen. And we have to redress that. And we have to say, look, we'll use the technology while we can, but these aren't private corporations. This is the military-industrial complex. And for someone like myself who's taken Trump to task on things I disagree with, I've always given him credit to be the first president since Eisenhower to actually address by name the military-industrial complex and say that they want wars. And that's what's been so difficult. And they want to stay in these things. And now the new war to me is to pit us against each other. And I really don't want to see that happen. And that seems to be the next step in the fervor of the media to label so many people domestic terrorists. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and in my Facebook lives every day, I articulate their tactics. I talk about, we know what they do. We know how they're going to operate. And if they can't incite law enforcement to act, then what they're going to do is they are going to go into the court of public opinion and public scrutiny, which is what they've done with me. Now, there's evidence with me inside that building, how I'm thanking law enforcement officers, asking them if they're okay, having conversations when in there, how they were going in there, and why did they take just pictures, and why are they putting those out there? Because they're trying to make me, they don't want the whole story told. And if the videos are shown, it is going to expose their lies, right? And the videos are out there. I have the videos. Everybody else that was there, they have the videos of how peaceful everything is. So you're absolutely right. It is a very, very big machine. They are very insulative. They're very protective of one another. They will do everything they can to maintain power. Now, to that end, we do need those agencies that protect us globally, right? We have to insulate ourselves from that. We have to. And, so having that military industrial complex to a degree is important, but it needs to be reined in. There needs to be that real oversight, just like with what we were talking about with local government. But, getting back to it all being one big part of the machine, you're absolutely right. And they will do everything that they can to make sure, just like this, as obvious, as peaceful as it is, with one person dying, okay, where were you when you had politicians and government agencies, not government agencies so much, but politicians and celebrities calling for the murder of Trump supporters? And then those Trump supporters were murdered. YouTube Trump supporters that were out there that nobody remembers. Where was the outrage on that? There was none. And where's the outrage when we're being assaulted or when politicians, they don't want it? It's that double standard, and we're tired of it. And the way you take that back, the only way you can take that back, and this is why we're doing Tell the Truth. And you can, every single person watching, you can do this. You can monitor and watch every single video, every story, and every news report that they do. Build your groups. I tell people this: build your groups, build your teams, and build your teams of like-minded people you'll have 5 people, 10 people, 20 people on your teams of like-minded people that you get along with, that you work with well. And then what you're going to do is you're going to start figuring out, and I've got all of this stuff put together. And right now they're scared because this movement is growing and it's getting strong, and they knew that they needed to divide us. And this is what happened here. And this is what's happening now here in my town. I have the different groups and organizations that I founded, in some cases, backing away from me, and others that I was a part of that are backing away from me. Well, this is a test to resolve. We are in a war, like you said before. Where are you going to be? Are you a lion or are you a sheep? And does it mean that being a lion means that you have to be violent? No. The lions that were there, they're just acting. They're doing. You be that lion. Don't sit on the sidelines. If you got to be behind the scenes doing something, then watch those videos. Rank those media, pundits that are out there and personalities and what they're doing, so that you can then write those emails. You can send those letters in. You can boycott the advertisers of those stations. Everybody always wants to take the big pieces of the puzzle on. Take the local pieces of the puzzle on. Get your local officials targeted and ranked. You know what I mean? And so then which politicians to go after in elections. The same thing with DAs. And this is where the local online digital media platform comes in, and somebody can start that. How you support it is you support it through local advertising dollars. You can have elderly people, that are retired doing it. You can have college graduates doing it, but it has to be checked and monitored too, because we want it to be unbiased, right? We want it to be fair. We want it to be true. We want it to be valid. And by doing this in each one of our towns, that echoes out into the county, and then it echoes out into the state. And, this is that's how you start to make, those are the different components and pieces of the puzzle to get the media to act responsibly. Because once you start getting them to act responsibly, then people can stop living in fear and worrying about going to a protest and then losing your job or being called a domestic terrorist when you were doing everything that you could to stop it. So, for example, Washington Post today, she said to me, she goes, "Why did you go there?" And I said, "Well, I went to be a peacekeeper. I went to monitor, I went to chronicle, and I wanted to make sure things didn't escalate. And I wanted to make sure that I was there to tell the true story, the accurate story." And I said, "We've been marching here and doing different things and rallies and protests since March. That was the first time I ever did a march or a protest or a rally. It was back in March or April, I think it was. And it was a rolling protest that we had. And every single one, we have been peaceful for 9 months. We have been peaceful. We have the praise of Buffalo police departments, local police departments. They know how we conduct ourselves. They know how we stand. They know how we say we love you to people that are screaming obscenities to our children. We stand there unified no matter what. And we say, God bless you. Even afterwards, some of these people that are just this hatred that's coming out of them will stay there and we'll go, "Hey, what's the matter?" We're always embracing. We're always welcoming in. And she was like, what she ended up saying was, "Well, why would you do that? That's not your job to be a peacekeeper." And I was like, really? Like, how inhuman and disconnected are you that you think that it's just law enforcement's job to be a peacekeeper? You're really that disconnected to understand that it was individuals, not just in the Patriots, but also in Capitol Police that exercised restraint and civility. And they were peaceful. It's not peaceful if Capitol Police don't exercise the same restraint as us. But you had Capitol Police just like in shock, like what's happening? They couldn't believe that we were thanking them and saying we love them and we appreciate you. And like you had said, you had the one video, somebody handing a hammer over and somebody pulling somebody down. It wasn't about getting into the building. None of us were there to get into the building. Mm-hmm. We were there to have our voices heard.
So I want to go back to local government and how important that is, because especially when you talk about local sheriffs and law enforcement, I kept thinking to myself, again, you have these people from all over the country. No matter what happens with this election, I think it's going to be incumbent upon us to go and do something similar in the local halls of government, at our local Congress and Senate. Now, you've already seen Idaho do it over the summer. They were trying to get rid of the lockdowns. In the next session, they just threw it out. I believe it's going to take some kind of a local Occupy movement, 500 people to start in each state. And it's going to take grandma basically live streaming from there and saying, "Hey, I'm here for my grandkids, and we're actually not leaving. And they want us to work from home. We brought hotspots. So we're just going to work from here. We got our laptops. We can do this." And again, if we can just find 500 people in each state and, 1 or 2 sheriffs from each county to accompany these people, and we do it peaceably, I don't see many other solutions out there, because obviously the ballot box has failed us. I don't want to see it go to the cartridge box, because at the end of the day, whatever comes out of that, I don't think is going to be anywhere near the constitutional republic we once had, let alone what it's been eroded to now. And what it's been eroded to now is truly almost unrecognizable from even 12 months ago, Pete. And that's why you're here, right? Because, again, you're not some career activist. Before all this, before the lockdowns, tell the people a bit about your background.
All right. I worked, I'm trying to get this camera. Sorry, buddy.
No, you're fine.
I don't mean to mess up the program here. Sorry, bud. I wish I had something I could set it on, but I don't, unfortunately. Beforehand, I was a variety of different things. I started in farming and landscaping at the age of 11. I started working. I was always trying to stand up for those that didn't have. I didn't ever want anybody to go without, and just always compassionate and empathetic for everybody. And it just developing my work ethic through that. And then I worked at several different jobs. I ended up at the post office for a little bit. And then I left that. I was in advertising, in sales at some local radio groups here. And then after that, I was with I started my own businesses and construction business, and I've been doing that ever since. And in August, I made a decision that I realized early on. I think we all had this misconception, and this misconception is that somebody else has got this, right? Well, nobody else has got it. I realized that nobody else was doing rallies, nobody else was doing protests, nobody else was looking after the elections. We didn't even have committees in some towns. We didn't even have party committee, certain parties not represented, Republicans and conservatives in certain towns. Crazy. And I realized very quickly I needed to step up to the plate, and I was trying to balance work with construction and activism. And I said I had to step away. In August, I realized I needed to step away. I didn't care that the money wasn't coming in. I wasn't doing it for money. I was just doing it for what was right. Our lockdowns here, suicide rates through the roof, elderly, despair, the dying in there. Those stories aren't even being told. How many just heartache and the suffering. And we have a group here that we do where we serenaded seniors, we through the Christmas and working in a way to get the best. And this is one thing when I tell everybody, why is it that we're always trying to reinvent the wheel for every single town? Why can't we as conservatives go through and evaluate every single town, every single county, who has the best governance? Bring it into our town. Who has the best elderly care? Let's bring that in, and let's start that as the basis of where we need to be. Here in Erie County, elderly care is a nightmare. It's an abomination. Our education used to be top notch. It's an abomination now. So why not do those things? And it's not to say that they can't be independent. They can and they should be, but start there. See what the most successful models are throughout the country and stop trying to reinvent the wheel and expend energy on trying to create something somebody already did. Take it, replicate it, emulate it. And then start there and building it. And with the politics, it's the same exact. Getting back to what I did, with activism, I realized I needed to be there. Mm-hmm. That even though it was going to cost me money, I'm not making anything right now at all. That I needed to organize people, and people saw value in me, and the value that they saw in me, and the inspiration, the motivation that they've seen in me, made me realize that in August I needed to take it on full, at full time.
Well, that's one of the things I've always encouraged people for. You really can't wait for, people thought Bill Barr was going to save them. I'm like, that's a big joke. That's not going to happen. Obviously, we're at that point where people are now having that come to God moment. But, one of the hashtags, like on my Twitter account the last 10 years, we'll see how much longer I had it. You talk about censorship. I lost almost 1,000 followers today, guys. I know people lost a lot more today because they purged a bunch of accounts. But that hashtag, be your own hero, is the real deal, because at the end of the day, being your own hero doesn't mean wearing a Superman cape. You're not fucking Batman. I get that, but it's the ability for you to at least try to have a happy life, to take care of your family if you're willing to work hard. Right now, that's literally being stripped away from us. And when you talk about New York in particular, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, why are we reinventing the wheel? Well, you literally have Cuomo saying he's giving the state to billionaires. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is getting education. We're seeing how that's going to work out through teleeducation and all those other things. Oh, we're going to give Michael Bloomberg contact tracing. We're already knowing through A416, A99 that this contact tracing is going to be any communicable disease they want. You don't even have to be infected. You could be a contact or a carrier or any other thing they want to classify you as. And then on top of that, to pour salt in the wound, they're going to bring Eric Schmidt in to help build the smart cities, yet another billionaire, tech billionaire. And we're going to give Jeff Bezos $326 million in offices in New York City that are now vacant after this pandemic for Amazon and whatever else he'd like. I mean, it's so in your face that they have given at least that state, and it appears they're ready to give the rest of the country over to tech oligarchs, that I don't understand how we don't get people to get it. Because again, to me, it's not even a left-right issue at this point. I think the left in a lot of ways have been hijacked and, again, been fooled into this false premise that everything's about gender identity or race, when your neighbors, folks, those people, they're making about the same amount. They have the same struggles. They have the same concerns. And these people at the top, they really don't care what the color of your skin is. They don't care how much you have in the bank account, because they're going to take it all. They're looking to take it all. They want to put you on a UBI. They want to bring in an automation nation, and they want to keep you away from as many human beings as possible so you guys can't communicate with each other and come together. So, I had a lot of communication with people. I was shown a lot of love at this event, and not just, from the Trump people. There were other people in D.C. that came up to me, said, hey, man, keep up the good work. I was able to have some one-on-one conversations with, I would say, some of the Antifa or BLM people when they're not in crowds, and you can talk to them as well. How do we get people to be more like that? Because I think that's also what it's going to take if we want to become the great resistance to what I believe is an oligarch's great reset.
I think, and it's a big thing that I preach out here to everybody, constantly advocating for being human, have that empathy, have that compassion, be present, be aware, be mindful to people, and pay attention to everybody. So many times we get lost in what we've got going on, or we're worried about the next shiny friend, and we leave those friends that we have there that can be amazing friends off the table. How do you do that? You take those texts, you reach out to people every day. You take the time to do that. That makes you more human. That makes you realize that you're connected to people, right? You take the time to invite somebody over for dinner. We stopped doing family dinners. You invite people over here. We do team building. We do bonfires. We do a group that we have that we supported restaurants when they were open and catering afterwards. We support small businesses. We've been doing that. We have a group with kids, sexually exploited kids in any manner, form, and it crosses over all ethnicities, and we don't care who you are. We embrace you, and it doesn't matter your political ideology, your political affiliation, your religious ideology. It doesn't matter where you came from, the color of your skin. It just doesn't matter. Are you a good person? Then come on in. Aren't you a good person? Then we'll try to figure out how to help you become a better person, And I think that that's really where it starts. It starts with community. It starts with empathy. It starts, like I said, with mindfulness. And it's paying attention and recognizing opportunities in people, seeing the values that they have, and not trying to reinvent people. Like, if you're good at doing podcasts and tech stuff, do that. Let's lean on each other for those things when we need them. And then when the group gets too large and there needs to be somebody else in there, you either break the group up. So everything needs to stay tight, though. Those teams need to be like, 15, 20 person teams. And what you can accomplish with 2 people, 1 person, imagine what you accomplish, but then with 15 or 20, but it's that humanity, it's that connection, right? That ends up coming on. That, like you said, that human contact that is just vital and necessary. And they do just want to turn us into profit machines. That's what they want. And they just, here's the amount of money we know we're going to make, and who knows what the gain is? Who knows what the end game is? We know it's influence, power, greed, right? Those are the things. Those are always the motivators for them. There was somebody that I met a little bit ago, and she is in charge of the Mindfulness Alliance. And she had said that there was going to be this major resurgence of humanity in a few years. And I was very hopeful that that was going to be the case. And what I'm seeing here in our town is I'm seeing people just gravitate towards one another, who are like-minded, who have those big hearts, that passion, who felt like they were alone, who felt like they were marginalized, ostracized by family and friends because of the way they think. And you sit there and you go, maybe there's something weird with me. And even that one politician, we don't have to worry about conservatives. They never come together, right? They hate each other. Well, here where we're at, we're coming together, and we're coming together in droves. And we have thousands and thousands and thousands of us because of what we're starting with the rallies and the protests, and then doing things for businesses and recognizing how we need to work together. And then we'll take that to that next level, which we talked about, which is politics, it's elections, it's legislation. But we're honing our skills now. We're learning where everybody fits within these teams and then within these groups and then collectively, so that we can impact things and we can make a big difference.
Absolutely. And again, utilizing your skill sets, I think, are important. You know, you were talking about podcasting. Well, look, I need those local business owners to get boots on the ground. And that means maybe your staff has to come with you. Say, hey, do you want a job in a year or 2 years? You've been here 5, Sally. You've been here 5. You know, you've been here 10, Emily. I mean, do we want to be here? Like, can we do it? And on top of that, you know, the people that have the graphic design skills, you're the ones that can set up the signs. The people with the tech skills, you set up the hotspots. You figure out the Chromebooks. Because again, if we just acquiesce at this point, I think it's over. And unfortunately, when we talk about force, I think a lot of this, you know, defund the police talk is because at the end of the day, they don't want human police. You know, it's funny how COVID works here in America where it's 6 feet away, right? You got to be 6 feet away. Well, it's weird in Singapore where they have Spot the DARPA robot in the parks talking to the people to distance. It's only 1 meter. So you're telling me that if we have robots walking around telling us the space is only 1 meter, but it's not 6 feet. Well, they've acquiesced. And, you know, people think that, you know, drone technology can't be used on them because it's America. You know, this is used throughout the world. And if you don't have a police force that's human, what do you think it's going to be? You know, it just got declassified this year. Supposedly they didn't do it, but they were looking to use a 6-ton drone aircraft in San Diego to enforce speed that would have been 30,000+ feet in the air and unrecognizable to the human eye. So this technology is already in place, in my opinion, to control and oppress us. You look at China's model, you know, they're just a beta test, in my opinion. They want that social credit score for everybody. They already have a full track trace database. They're just not in your face about what they're able to do. I mean, China in real time will ticket you and take away credits from you as you jaywalk or as you do something undesirable in public. That's pure insanity. People think that we're immune to that because, you know, you said the Pledge of Allegiance every day and that just can't come to America. Have you seen what's occurred in the last 10 months? Have you been paying attention? It is now so in your face that if you're not ready to be your own hero, you might be ready to be someone else's slave. And personally, I'm not ready to make that commitment to subservience to people that have no business ruling over me and already have too much power. So what's the next step? How can people get involved with you, Pete? Where do they go from here? What do you have coming up in the next, I'd probably say less than 2 weeks as even more chaos ensues in government?
We'll be down in D.C. again. If we have to be down in D.C. for sure, we'll be down there to support whatever's going on. I think really where we're focused at, because people are asking me, what are the next moves? The next moves that we have to make are building those teams. We have to focus in on media. We have to. And then, holding them accountable and responsible to the people. Getting those rating systems, those ranking systems for all local media, getting that online digital media presence established so that every town now has to be responsible. And once you get that online digital media presence going and you are talking to or you're involved more politically with the politicians in your local governance, then you can start rating and ranking them. And that in of itself, both those entities being there will start to hold more people accountable. It will, because now they know they can't just do things unchecked with nobody watching, right? Now they know somebody is watching, so they are going to inherently be responsible. They don't want to be caught. And then the rating system is the same thing. These politicians want to keep their offices. Here in Erie County, we have had several politicians that have stepped up to the plate who never would have before. And they are making an impact by stepping up. And the impact that they are having not only is on the people in the voting population, but on other politicians who thought they couldn't do this. They thought that they couldn't speak out. They thought that they couldn't legislate or govern in a way that was responsible and human. And those people that were even on the fence, they're starting to come over. Those are the things that we can do. The next thing that we absolutely have to do collectively are these elections. We have got the only way elections are going to work from now on, paper ballots. That's it. You only have paper ballots. You have monitors from both sides. That's it. Each individual person gets one ballot assigned to them with their name on it. It's printed out at the very beginning. If they use it, they use it. It matches up with them, and that's it. You know, they have to have, of course, the ID is a very difficult thing to do, but it's 1-for-1 voter, and that's it. You know?
It seems like, that's a hard concept, that there can't be 0.4% of a vote. But I'm going to take it even a step further, because I'm a technology guy. And I always tell people, look, technology is a double-edged sword. It's just like a hammer. It can build your house. It can beat your fucking head in, right? So we need to use technology that's not there to enslave us, but unfortunately, we've used this technology for a long time to not only rig elections here in this country, but across the world. Let's own up to it. I always encourage people to check out John Perkins' Confessions of an Economic Hitman, how the IMF and the intelligence agencies actually work in these, third and second worlds, and now in this first world. And they have been for some time, but it can empower you. Now, you can get a $20 webcam that can sit there. You can put a Pokemon card under it. It immediately reads it. Knows exactly what it is. Now, I challenge anybody to tell me how it would not be more efficient and cut down on voter fraud or election fraud 99+% if we live streamed every single voting place as people walk in. Okay? Right there, they vote. That is also on live stream, that's there. All the votes are simply put where you see them. Okay? Genius, right? We're going there so far. Then when it's over, they don't leave anywhere but that spot, all live streamed. Then you have 2 people counting the votes, 2 people on the other side checking, and the webcam on each thing live streaming across the world, where you would have thousands of independent fact checkers right there, and a hand count. And at the end of the day, you put up the hand count against what the webcams see. And obviously, you would already have the 2 physical bodies and then the internet checkers on top of it. How much of I'm sure we wouldn't just have 600,000 flip votes. That we wouldn't be reading about that. And if we did, there'd be a huge problem. But how much would that cost? It would cost almost nothing, except it would cost these tech oligarchs the ability to select and not elect who they want. So I think, again, that's another huge problem. People have also talked about blockchain technology, Mike Gravel amongst them. The bottom line is this is not a new issue. When they talk about the Carter and Baker Commission and they talk about mail-in ballots, I've played the clip of the press conferences. It's not just mail-in ballots. They also talk about these voting machines. One of the other solutions that was never put into the place over the last decade and a half is a random 1% to 2% audit of these machines. Imagine that, just a 1 or 2% audit on the machines that are already suspiciously highly corrupt. Even that may have cut it down. We didn't even get that. So that just shows you that the media has failed us, politicians have failed us, and quite frankly, just about every other, imaginary apparatus out there. I always tell people, you got to be active. You can't just believe in fairy tales on message boards that somebody's going to save you and take down the deep state. It's got to be you. 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 So we need to utilize those message boards to activate people, to get them out there, Pete. And I couldn't agree with you more. You can, centralize 10, 15 people and make a huge, huge difference. What do you think the country looks like after the 21st, when Biden looks like he will be inaugurated? If Biden gets in, and many people at this point, Trump said that there will be a smooth transition of power unless there's some kind of, shake up in the next 11 days. What does the country look like? Because I've got some people that think everything's going to be okay, everything's going to get better. And then I've got other people that are like, well, he's not going to leave, or chaos is going to ensue. A lot of hype around the Civil War. I mean, even listening to Tucker Carlson last night, you do have competing platforms being banned. Parler banned by Google. Talked about being banned by Apple. If big tech wants to just ban these other platforms and they're arms of the intelligence agencies, what hope do we have? I know that's a lot. I know I just threw a ton at you. What are your thoughts?
I think that, again, staying tight together, what's going to end up happening is we're all going to elevate one another, right? Even if you do 5 minutes of exercise, you're going to have 5 minutes of exercise more than you would if you didn't do it, right? And each one of us, we have to take a look at this as that. This has to become a fundamental part of our lives each and every single day. where we were told civics, weren't even taught civics, right? We were told don't talk politics. And we were told don't talk religion. We were told to not communicate about the things that we should have been communicating about, because this is what ends up happening. People aren't going to get involved. You have, politicians running unopposed. Like, when does that should never happen, ever. And, that's where it starts. That's where it's rooted in, because as we all start, we're at zero. Let's say we're at zero, and you start working with your teams and you start building these things. Like 9 months ago, we had nothing. We had no one. I was going out into 1,500 person Antifa rallies here in Buffalo, walking through them after they had terrorized and looted our city. Nobody got arrested. Our local DA said, nope, we're not going to arrest anybody. And I went down there. No police were there. This group had been violent. They were getting violent again. They were kicking cars. I went down by myself. I walked through that crowd and I said, we have men on the rooftops. We have men in the basements. If you do this stuff, you will be shot. What happened? I went through there 4 times. It was me. It was just me. I had nobody else. And I walked through the group. I found a spot where I had 180, my back was covered, and 200 people descended on me. Right. And then, but I'm learning who they are. I'm learning how they operate, how they conduct themselves, because Antifa is a mystery for a lot of people, right? Black Lives Matter was a mystery. They're attacking. And I wanted to demystify it. I wanted to see who they were. So I went through and I found out who they were. And what it did is it took those 1,500 people and it separated them. It brought the radicals out, which was probably about 100 to 200 of them. They were surrounding me. And I ended up saying, is this a peaceful protest or not? And do you know that what de-escalated that was, because we're all called white supremacists, right? What de-escalated that was a black man, small black man, came up to me out of all the chaos and hugged me. And then as it started to get escalated again, there were a group, and there were seriously, there were 12 black people there. One of them was this black woman screaming at me, but there was one black woman that was protecting me. And then a circle of 8 black men encircled me and said, we've got this guy. When the white people were there ready to tear me down, the black people were there to protect me. It was beautiful. And those are the... Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say I had not as dramatic an experience, but 3 weeks ago when I was in D.C. for this first coverage, before this rally was even called, basically, as soon as I started live streaming, so the night before the event there, the speeches out there, I walked down from the Hampton. I was going down to where I believe it was the JW Marriott, where they were having something out there, looking for Cara Castronova, actually. So we're not walking 5 minutes, and all of a sudden we get to, what we're looking around, and it looks like an Antifa, black. I'm live streaming it, and immediately I'm getting screamed at. Now I'm in a Captain America jacket. I don't know who these people are. I don't wear Trump stuff. That's not what I'm there for. My other buddy's dressed up like Indiana Jones, believe it or not. You got to see the video. I mean, we don't scream Trump supporters. And within minutes, I'm getting screamed at and called a fascist and all these things. And I'm like, the cops are just there letting it happen, and I'm getting approached. And I'm telling people, listen, just calm down. If you want to have a conversation with me, take your mask off. We'll have a conversation. And then, obviously I'm a terrible person. As I start to leave, the one guy that's cool with me is the actual black guy who's not wearing a mask, who's sitting amongst these people, who's thrown me up the peace symbol. And I tell Peace, I love you too, brother. And it's just so ironic that this is, a Black Lives Matter type event, right? They have, what is it, Black Lives Matter Way now in D.C.? Is that what that is? And it's the black guy who's giving me the peace and love when literally I'm just walking and I didn't mean to cover them. And I think that's what people don't get, man. When I got to the other thing, it was such a different vibe. Nobody approached me because I was live streaming. Nobody thought I was a threat. But then later on, I think a day later after the big event, if I catch a couple of Antifa guys, I was asking where a 7-Eleven was, and they're alone. And, again, I'm just dressed like a normal person, and they're on a park bench. They're like, hey, yeah, you could talk to them for 2 minutes. There's nothing crazy. I think that we have to, again, find a way to reach these people and make them understand their insanity, because, that moment is hopefully when some of those people, like you said, those very angry, white, BLM, Antifa people are standing there, and now you're being surrounded by, 8 people of color, and they're like, hey, this isn't the way. I hope something clicks in their brain. And they're like, you know what? Hey, this isn't the way. Because we need more of that. Because at the end of the day, just like I reiterated a little while ago, this is class warfare. Now, again, they don't care about the color of your skin. They want to control as many people as possible, as much as possible. And we're seeing that more and more. We're coming up on an hour. Tell people how they can get a hold of you, how they can work with you, or you can point them in the direction where they can follow you on social media, because I know that you're under a firestorm right now and you may be being taken off Twitter, Facebook, all these things. How do people get in touch with you?
Pete Harding, Pete Harding on Facebook. You guys can reach me there, or PeteHarding1@yahoo.com. Feel free to email me there, guys. I'm not on Twitter. I don't do that. I'm not on Parler. So Facebook Messenger is really kind of the best way. They did today. I was putting my videos up. They blocked me from doing lives for 60 days. I have 2 accounts. From the one account, said nothing wrong at all. 30. So you're right. They are blocking me, but those are the best ways. So Facebook Messenger, Pete Harding. I'm in Buffalo. You'll see me with a red shirt on. We had a 9/11 tribute that we did. It was beautiful. Firefighters, police men on a bridge in my hands with American flag in the one picture. Friend request me there, or email me at PeteHarding1@yahoo.com.
And we're going to hope to get you on later in the week and possibly find a way to show some of that footage from inside the Capitol. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Thank you so much, Pete, for joining us. And again, feel free to reach out. Love to have you on the program if anything does come up, because we have to find a way not only to come together, but a way around this big media censorship. And, I'm a guy that'll have anybody on, and especially people from differing perspectives, because we're not always going to get it right. But I think that the majority of us that see what's going on now can't be against coming together against these lockdowns, against this oppression, and really to have fair elections in our future if we want to save this republic. So props to you, my friend, and keep it up.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you, Jason.
You got it, man. We'll see you soon, I promise. All right, everybody. All right. That is Pete Harding. So make sure you guys go check him out. I'm excited to have him on again. I want to remind everybody, we're back on the YouTube, but we are fully demonetized here. I don't know how much longer we're going to be here. Again, I'm not a conservative. Everybody knows that. But I've seen Pete taking action, and we need more people like him taking action. Not a right or left issue to me. $5, $10, $15. It means the world to me. Big donors. Thank you so much. Plenty of trolls hating on the fact that I am able to do this. Please check out the documentary films. They're free. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture are free right here, right now in the playlist section. I guess, until they take them down. Who knows? Who knows what the new, standards and practices are? You can follow me at Jason Burmis on Twitter. But again, a lot of people were taken and purged off of Twitter today. Follow me over on Rockfin, rockfin.com. I will be live 11 a.m. Monday through Friday this week. Free and exclusive. Go make the free account. The Ray is exploding. I haven't checked it, but it was over $4.32, hitting its all-time high today. So again, hopefully Rockfin is going to continue to flourish, because they don't intend to censor free speech. And maybe we're going to get my man there on Rockfin as well. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you so much. I'll